Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. So while everyone's coming in, if you just want to pop in the chat what industry you work in, be interesting just to get a sense of what industries people are coming from in the room. Electrical. Thank you, Raywin, for kicking us off. It always takes one person to start. Engineering, bookkeeping, BAS, billboards, electrical construction, vehicle rental, bookkeeping, construction, tourism, farming. Cool. Somebody's got a note taker. No problem. Um, Vehicle rental, F&B, electrical contracting, construction. Amazing. Amazing. Love it. Um, yeah, so good. That's really one of the things that I sort of love about this job and love about I guess the business is really the diversity of sort of clients and industries we get to work with. And, on one hand, I'm sure, in the day to day, what everyone's doing in their businesses is, really different in terms of the clients they serve. But, I think when you sort of think about these kinds of financial processes, it's really so similar across the board and really, so many opportunities to kind of learn and share knowledge across industries. Renewable energy, cool. Accounting. We have met a few accountants in the past. Amazing. Okay, cool. So I think we'll kick off. Thanks again for coming and thanks again for being here on time and sharing your industries. It's like I said, always interesting to see who's in the room and have other people sort of understand the diversity of clients and industries that are here and who we work with. Um, so my name's Elise, and I'm a senior partner manager here at EzzyBills, and I'm really looking forward to sort of hosting and sort of leading the webinar this morning. Really excited to have Theresa King with us from Map Projects, who's one of our clients. She's been a client for about a year and a half, and we'll have a chance kind of in, sort of around the middle towards the end of the webinar just to hear a little bit more from her. Just to sort of have a bit of a sort of client spotlight kind of case study in terms of a real client that we've done some of this work for. As I said to Theresa when we were sort of meeting yesterday, it's very easy for a salesperson for a business to sort of say how great our business is, but I do think it's a really interesting and different perspective to sort of hear from a client directly who works with us quite closely. And also just to sort of mention my colleague Ian from EzzyBills, who will be sort of primarily in the background, but also just facilitating the Q&A. So I think just like we kicked off with some, interactive bits about the industries, really want to make this as interactive as possible. So please pop your questions in the chat as we go. And, we'll definitely take some breaks and have some questions throughout, and then also put some time towards some Q&A at the end. So without further ado, I think we'll kick off from PO to paid, mastering the full accounts payable cycle with EzzyBills. And I thought it was really, opportune timing to do this. At least in Australia, we've just finished our end of financial year. I know in New Zealand, you guys are a little bit past that. You finished a couple of months ago, but I guess not too far off from the beginning of the new financial year in New Zealand as well. And I think it's just a good opportunity. I find, the two times of year, we really get a lot of sort of influx in leads is kind of in January at the beginning of the calendar year when people are sort of interested in renewing their processes and rethinking their AP and their automation. And then again around this time of year, in July at the beginning of the new financial year when, people sort of in the middle of the actual year are able to take a step back and take a pause and say, what are our systems? What's broken? What could be better? And how can we improve? And I think there's two sort of main case studies or two main sort of groups in that. So I think one is, people who might not be using our product, and I'm sure there's people out there that are not yet using our product and might want to learn about, some of the end-to-end solutions that we offer. I think a lot of our webinars to date have focused more on sort of one specific feature or one specific integration. And with this, I really wanted to offer something a little bit more sort of holistic to sort of understand those full kind of end-to-end workflows. And then I think the second group, and there's probably more people on the webinar that fit into this demographic, are people who are already using EzzyBills. and want to learn about more opportunities that could be doing. Everyone is using the system to push bills into Xero. Um, but what are the other opportunities, as we all know, in 2026? There's a lot more to AP than just pushing bills into Xero. So um, let's jump in. Um, So just to sort of give you a high level of what we're going to go through. And so again, the modern AP challenge, and we'll chat a little bit more about that, and how workflows have evolved over time and what they look like. We'll then kind of parallel that with what that can look like with EzzyBills and how EzzyBills can help at a few different points along that workflow. We've got some best practices for using the software, tips and tricks. um, we'll have a live demo. We will have a bit of a chat with Theresa about the sort of case study client spotlight that we spoke about earlier, and then next steps and Q&A at the end. So why does automating AP matter? And I think some of this is obvious, but I think it's always really important to kind of reiterate and really remind ourselves how important this is, really across all size businesses. I was in touch with a bookkeeping franchise business recently, and they wrote back to me saying, well, most of our franchisees work with really small, sole trader, kind of gardener, plumber, electrician, kind of businesses. And I don't really know, is this really relevant, or is it only for bigger businesses? And I think the benefit is that it's really beneficial for every size business. If you're, sole owner operator, you automate this, you spend more time with your family, you spend, more time on the tools growing your business. You're a, 40, 50 person business. You can really put your accounts team to doing jobs that are much more valuable for the business. So it really is sort of a solution that can be helpful for any size business, at any stage of the lifestyle, from micro into that kind of medium range business and beyond. Um, so you've got the financial controls, and you've got issues like, auditors, managers, people want to see who's approving what, where it's going, how the money's been spent, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You want to improve your cash flow. You want to reduce fraud. Things like, checking and verifying bank details, something that is a lot of work manually, but can be done in an automated way. Speeding up approvals. That's something we're going to speak a lot about throughout the session, and Theresa will touch on that as well. Eliminating the manual work really goes without saying. Less people sitting all day entering bills into accounting software, and that becomes more and more relevant. Like, as salaries are going up, wages are going up, people are quite expensive. So to be able to automate some of that and use people for higher level tasks, I think is really valuable for businesses. um, Extra visibility over purchasing. And that's something we're really going to speak about when I talk about our new um, purchase order module, purchase order creation tool, which was kind of one of the points of this webinar as well, to really speak about the purchase order creation, because that tends to be a pain point in a lot of businesses. There's, procurement managers, there's line managers, there's project managers that need to be ordering things, and the limitations in the accounting software that you can't allow people to create purchase orders without giving them full access to your Xero file, which many people don't want to do. So we've created this PO creation tool to really help solve that pain point, decreasing errors. Humans are human, we make human errors. So decreasing that, and like I've kind of alluded to before, allowing businesses to grow. And having an audit trail is also really important. One of the things that's really cool about the software is that everything that happens is logged. So we know exactly, who entered what and who approved what and when it was approved and where it was approved, et cetera, et cetera. And that audit trail becomes really relevant as well. And that data is all stored both in EzzyBills as well as in the accounting software that you are pushing it into. Um, so again, what does the AP process look like? I guess that was kind of the sort of grab on the flyer and on the sort of webinar promotions that we've done. Um, so what is it? So we've got the PO create, and again, I'll show you in the demo part what that looks like because that's a brand new feature that we've just released. We can do PO approvals with our approval workflows, extract details from the invoice. And again, that can be by email, the mobile app, or drag and drop on the dashboard to actually be pushing documents in. Again, get the invoice approved with the workflows or via the mobile app. And I'm not going to dive into it in too much detail today because we're not going to really focus on the app, but that is also a feature that we've released within the past few months is doing approvals via the app. So until recently, our mobile app was really only to take photos of documents and push them through to your accounting software. But we have recently released approvals via the app. So, site managers that are not necessarily office based, they're out on site, don't necessarily have time to get to a computer to actually do those approvals, can now just do them on their phone when they're on site. So hopefully that'll make it a tool that's, I guess, much more relevant, especially for sort of, businesses in the trades, construction, engineering space, where the people who need to do the approvals are on site and not in the office. An invoice exported to accounting and project management software. And for the sake of sort of this conversation today, we're going to be focusing primarily on our Xero integration and sort of the accounting integrations. And YOB and QuickBooks are all pretty similar in terms of their features and functionality. But a lot of the functionality that we're going to cover in terms of the PO matching is relevant across, all of our integrations, and we have and will continue to run webinars sort of focusing on those specifically. So if you are using products like Workflow Max, Simpro, Scora, WorkGuru, Sin7, et cetera, we're, yeah, like I said, not going to sort of dive deep into those today, but a lot of the sort of workflows and ideas and approvals are relevant, and we do have a lot of sort of evergreen content on the different workflows and the different integrations on our YouTube and on our website and in other places. And if you are interested in learning more about those, then feel free to get in touch with us directly. Okay, so in terms of what we can capture, and this slide really could be endless, because I'm almost going to start at the bottom and basically say that anything that is on the invoice we can capture, anything that's on a document we can read. Again, we're talking about automating our AP process primarily, but the tools are expanding into other areas beyond just AP. So we've got a client, for example, that um, is in the logistics industry, and we've sort of built like a small app for them where we extract rego information for all their drivers and create a CSV file with all of their drivers' names and their rego information. So we have all of these things: supplier invoice number, invoice date, PO number, due date, GST, currency, line items, tracking, project, job, etc., etc. And like I said, really anything else that is on a document, we can read it and we can import it and we can do things with it. And that's also where our rules and AI tasks and all those other things will really sort of come into play. Um, so in terms of the PO matching, so in the previous slide, we chatted about what we can grab off of the invoice. This is more about what we can match. So with that PO matching feature, and again, each of our integrations is built slightly differently, but at a high level, again, looking at things like supplier items, quantity, unit price, remaining balance. We just built sort of a little feature with our Workflow Max integration where we can actually also check. EzzyBills will pull the stock receive to see if the stock's been partially receipted, fully receipted, or not receipted at all. Excuse me. So we can, grab those types of information, that type of information as well. And flag exceptions and error handling, I think is something that, in almost every conversation I'm having with every business is something that's coming up. We want, assuming everything falls into this rule and this thing in this PO match, send it straight through. We don't want to see it, but, if there's a discrepancy, if there's, um, a gap of a certain amount or a certain percentage between the PO and the dollar value of the invoice, let us know. If there's no PO quoted on the invoice, let us know. So really setting up those rules and that error handling is becoming, really important and definitely something that the system can handle. Multiple invoices against PO, also something that we have released with our Xero integration in the past ballpark 6 months. And again, very common to have one PO and a number of items on back order. You need multiple invoices to sort of link up with that original PO. Also something that we can now support. And again, like I said there, the partial deliveries, progress claims, contractor invoices. So, any case where you've got sort of one PO and then, multiple things coming in, whether it be from suppliers or from subbies or, sort of any combination, we can handle all of those bits and pieces as well. So I really wanted to kind of jump into our approvals, because I think that's really important. And I think when we talk about those audit trails and, financial management, having, I guess, like the title says, the right eyes on every invoice is something that's becoming, and is, incredibly important. And the way we sort of like to roll out our approvals is creating rules that mirror the processes in your business. And so, often when I sit down with a business and I say, okay, well, how would you like me to set up your approval workflows and EzzyBills? They'll say, well, what can you do? And I'll say, well, what do your processes look like? And, we'll kind of drill down to a point of like, okay, well, this is the delegated authority, and this is who can approve based on, what factor, what category, what department, supplier, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So um, overall, we can do 5 levels approval. And the approvals are done via email. So for your, department managers, logistics managers, line managers, senior managers, it's a system where people don't need to log in to EzzyBills directly. It's a system where these people get emails automatically sent to them. They can review whatever invoices are relevant to them, and approve them from those emails. And again, I won't get into too much of the detail, but those emails can be batched, if they don't want a lot of emails coming through in one day. And again, you've got the sort of categories and criteria, and just like I kind of said with the suppliers, anything that can be read off of an invoice, we can build an approval rule based on. And when we sort of jump into our short demo a little bit later, I can show you sort of our 2 categories of approval rules. So we've got one category of approval rules that are sort of built-in approval rules that are, kind of a plug and play. You can tick them off, and you've got your basic things around dollar value and supplier, and those types of things. And then if you're looking for approval rules that don't currently exist in the ones that we've already got, then we can sort of build approval rules with our AI features. You can have automated reminders if invoices are not approved. And I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want to steal Theresa's thunder, but we can do approvals either at an invoice or at a line item level. Ian, have any questions come through?
So far, it looks like everyone's pretty happy. So yeah, you're free to keep going.
Amazing. Okay, cool. So yeah, as I said before, feel free to just kind of pop your questions in the chat and we can answer them as we go. I find it's helpful to kind of sometimes get answers when you're actually covering a certain topic as opposed to at the end. So I guess based on kind of the theory that I've chatted about in the past couple of minutes, here's sort of a practical real life example of an approval workflow. And these can be, super diverse, in terms of what they look like. But I thought it'd be helpful just to have like a um, specific example of what this could look like. So AP or finance team reviews the extraction and the coding. So obviously the first step before this is the document goes into EzzyBills and we extract all of the line item details, the coding, um, the tracking, the supplier, due date, etc., etc., etc. And we have what I generally recommend is like a dashboard review. So the document just sits on the EzzyBills dashboard for the AP admin finance person to review and code. The next step might be each project manager approves everything related to their project, and that could be sort of rolled out in different ways. There could be a manual step where someone allocates different projects to different people. It could be based on some AI that we build in the background based on a job number or project number that's quoted on the invoice. We can automatically route documents to the appropriate people. Um, then you might have a third layer that says, if there's a discrepancy of more than 10% between the PO value and the invoice value, then send to the procurement manager as an example. Or maybe it only goes to the project manager if there's, more than a certain discrepancy between the PO value and the invoice value. And, the project manager or procurement manager don't need to see it because you might be sort of, dealing with an example where the purchase order was already approved. And so they might say, well, when the invoice comes, if the purchase order has already been approved and there's less than X% discrepancy, just push through to the next stage. Then you might have a rule that says if the invoice is over 5,000 and it's not a recurring supplier, then send to the CEO. And if it's a recurring supplier, you can skip that. You might need to, the rent bill as an example, you might know that it's more than 5,000, but it's a recurring expense. You see it every week, so you can skip that. If the invoice is over 20,000, then send to the CEO and then export to accounting software. So again, I just thought this would be helpful to choose sort of some specific rules, just to sort of paint a bit of a picture of what this could look like. Um, Ian, maybe we'll pause. I think there are a couple of questions on there.
Yep, that's right. Okay, Karen would like to know how do we link the purchase order, which is in Xero, with the invoice in EzzyBills?
It's a great question, and we will get there when I do a bit of a demo. But the simple answer is that it just happens automatically. So assuming the purchase order is in your accounting software and assuming the invoice quotes the purchase order number, EzzyBills will automatically link up those two things.
Awesome, that's great. Yes. And Jessa would like to know, does the approvals happen within EzzyBills or is it an email that they receive? And do the approvers need an account with EzzyBills?
Very good question as well that I sort of alluded to, but I'll just, I guess, explain it a little bit more if it wasn't clear. So the approvals can happen in one of two ways. Um, in the first instance, approvals for managers happen via email. So if you're the, job manager, project manager, you would get an email saying, can you approve the invoice? Um, but sometimes we do recommend that sort of the AP or finance team do their sort of review stage directly in EzzyBills. So I would say AP sort of review would be usually on the dashboard, although it could take place via email as well. But for sort of actual approvers, department managers, senior managers, etc., that's done via email, and they don't need an account with EzzyBills. They don't need a login, they don't need an account. When the workflows are being built, you just put in the email addresses of the people who need to approve under the different conditions. And whenever there's sort of an email that fits those conditions, they just get an email and they approve from the email. So it was really important for our developers to sort of not create other systems for people to log into and not have other systems for people to worry about kind of, usernames and logins. So it's just the kind of, finance team that would have those user profiles and logins, and managers do everything by email.
Perfect. I think that's all the questions for now. Would you like to continue at least?
Um,
Oh, mhm.
yeah, maybe we'll just grab that one more and
Yep.
we'll keep going.
So Glenn is asking if there's hundreds of approvals, then hundreds of emails can't bulk approve. I think that's
Um,
pretty straightforward for you, at least.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you can bulk approve and you can get the invoices come through in a batch. So you could say you only want, let's say, one email a day or one email a week. And then, yeah, you can just go through and approve them from the email. So it just depends. And it might be easier to explain this when I've actually got the app open in front of me. But if you just need to say, okay, there was $100 spent at Bunnings, you just click on it and approve. If you actually need to go in and see more granular details about the line items and all of those types of things, then yeah, you can just sort of open it and take a look at each one individually. Okay, so I think this leads me to introduce Theresa. So just a moment of introduction before she kind of jumps in. So founded in 2006, Map Projects delivers high quality civil engineering projects on time and on budget. So that's just a bit about the business she works for. Um, and Theresa is a chartered accountant who has brought financial and management skills to the business. She is quick to adapt new systems and has been an EzzyBills customer for just over a year. Um, so over to you.
Thanks, Elise. Yeah, hi everyone. Morning, afternoon, or wherever it is where you are. So yeah, as Elise mentioned, I'm Theresa and I'm the management accountant at Map Projects. So yeah, pretty much we're a civil engineering contractor, and if you can draw it, we can build it. We work within New Zealand and also the Pacific. So just a bit about us. So as an admin team, we're sort of spread across the North Island. So, and our project teams are consistently moving. So it's really important to us of having cloud-based efficient systems because it's quite essential to how we operate as a business. So what did we look like before EzzyBills? Well, before implementing EzzyBills, we used to just use Xero to process our invoices. Um, Within Xero, we rely quite heavily on tracking categories. That's how we each project has a tracking category, so that's how we capture our data. So what used to happen is our invoices were emailed from our accounts inbox to the designated Xero email, pop up and draft bills. If they only related to one project, it was lump sum coded as one line. The approver's name was put in front of the invoice number in the reference field. And then obviously, if you've used Xero or know Xero, you know there's one approval queue. So that's how the managers then knew they would have to go into that approval queue, find their name next to which ones, and then obviously approve them from there. Our credit card receipts were also very manual. So card holders would photograph their receipts and attach them to an email, send them to our team, and they'd manually get attached to each transaction in Xero. So I've been with Map about 2 years, and as soon as I started, it was pretty evident that this was an area for us that we needed a bit more efficiency on and improvement in. There's obviously operational risks around the approval side. Our reporting wasn't that great because we didn't have line by line extraction. We couldn't run reports on quantities of various things because, yeah, it obviously wasn't coming in that way. So at the start of last year, we came up with a list of non-negotiables and key requirements of what we wanted in a system, and out to the market I went. I looked at 5 systems overall, and I done demonstrations with all of them, and that gave me a chance to sort of talk about our non-negotiables in a system and make sure we were picking the right one for us. So at the end of that review, EzzyBills was the one we decided to go with. The biggest factor on deciding EzzyBills for us was the ability to support both line-by-line extraction as well as line-by-line approvals. So regularly we've got invoices where, one line might be to one project, another to another project. And previously we couldn't have that approved by the relevant managers. So having that line level approval just gives those project managers better visibility. So that line by line approval wasn't an out of the box available function from EzzyBills at the time. However, after discussing with Elise and the developers, they designed and built that specifically for us, which was fantastic and obviously a great example of their willingness to sort of support, that customization and things. Yeah, we operate across multiple entities and use multiple currencies, and EzzyBills is great with that. We've got a sort of a group login, and we've just got a toggle at the top where we switch between each entity. So it's really great from that functionality side. So yeah, the custom approvals. So I'll probably speak a little bit on the line by line one that we got built. So it's sort of got a 4-step process to it. So the first step was if the supplier is X, then the approver's to be X. So no matter what, if that supplier is always to be approved by one person, then that was the first step of the process. The second step was, okay, if it's this GL code, it's always this supplier. The third step was if it's this tracking category and this GL code, then it's this approver. And then the last step was just if none of those criteria matched, then if it was a particular tracking category, then it would go off to, the person that was attached to that tracking category. So and that's the bulk behind our line by line and how that sort of works. So as you can obviously see, there's quite a bit in there and a few steps built in. But that helps our line by line. Obviously the first couple are just sort of supplier or GL specific, but those last couple of steps is where that line by line approval comes into play. So our other entities have got more simpler workflows. So some of them, all of them go to one approver or based on supplier. One of our other entities also has the dual approval set up. So pretty much first in, first serve. So there's 2 approvers. It both goes to both of them. Whoever approves it first is the approver effectively. So that works well for one of our other entities. That was something that was implemented after we joined EzzyBills, and that's made a big change for us as well. So that's been great. Pretty much just the level of customization in your approval workflows, like, the world is it's pretty endless, really, like what Elise said earlier. It's really specific to your organization. What do you need that to look like? But there's just so many options in there for how it can be built. So definitely just come up with what you need it to look like, and I'm sure there's probably a solution there. So the other area is our credit card receipts process has been significantly improved now. So each card holder's got a user ID, or sort of a name user ID within EzzyBills, and a dedicated upload email address. So they've got the EzzyBills app on their phone. Once that's set up, it's linked to their user ID. It's just a one-time setup. There's no login required on the app, so the guys love the fact they don't have to remember a password. Pretty much They go out, they get a receipt, they take a photo of it on the app. It's automatically already linked from their initial setup to their card. A notes box pops up. They put any notes they need for us to know. They send it off, comes into EzzyBills. We code it, and then it's sent off to the approver that's been designated to their card. Once they've approved it, it goes into Xero, and it automatically links it to the bank feed for that card in Xero. So it creates that spend money transaction, and it automatically links it to that credit card. So that's something that's created a lot of efficiencies for us now. And the fact the guys don't have to take photos and attach it to an email, is great. The designated email works similar. So say you've booked flights, and you've got the confirmation to your email address, you just hit forward, put your designated email in, and it acts exactly the same way directly to your card. So so that's another great thing as well. So we got here. So there's expense claims for employees too. We don't currently use that, but it works very similar to that credit cards side. So we've sort of got that in the back of our minds. If we start to get employees that are making regular claims, we've obviously got that ability there. One of our key goals was to make the approval process as simple as possible for our guys on the ground. So the fact that our approvers don't need a login is something that really was great for us. So as Elise has already mentioned, they get an email, they click the link, it takes them in. They can save down that link as a favorite if they want to open at any time. We've got our emails batched, so they go twice a week. They just get one email that says you've got invoices for approval. They can click on it, open it up, check them, recode them, whatever they want to do. But that part of it's really customizable as well. They can actually approve it from the emails if they want to, but we turned that off because construction guys are quite trigger happy and like to just hit approve without checking things. So we cut that off pretty quick. So it just means they open it up, they have to physically review it and hit approve. But we've had no complaints. They're all liking it so far, which is really great. So like any new system, obviously there's a learning period and an implementation period, and there's quite a bit of effort involved to get your system up and running to how you want it, but that's just the same with any system. And once that foundation is in place, you'll start to see those benefits come pretty clear. So how our system works now is we forward the email or the invoices to EzzyBills, like our main ones. Our finance admin codes them, and then obviously the workflows are already built. Off it goes. They get approved. Once they're approved, they go straight into Xero. It prints the name of the person that approved it on the invoice, so it attaches the invoice in Xero as well as the audit report, so the audit trail, and then also prints the name of the approver on the invoice, so it's really easy to see in Xero who actually approved it without scrolling through the audit report as well. So that's something that that's been really great for us. We've thrown a lot of ideas to the help desk and things we would like to see, and they've implemented quite a few of those. Some of them have been quite easy, others not so much. So they're really fantastic from that side of things. And I think it's just great that you've got a receptive app developer that's willing to just listen to your ideas and make little tweaks, because some of the little tweaks that have been done have actually created a lot more efficiency. So we've gained a lot from them. So overall, obviously EzzyBills has helped us improve a lot of things, visibility, controls, manual administration, and just a lot more efficiency across the board, not only with our approvers, but our finance team and project managers and things as well. So there's a lot of other areas of the system that we haven't quite delved into yet, but are definitely on our to-do list when we get the time. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, that's pretty much about our sort of process of EzzyBills. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so, so much, Theresa. I think that was amazing to really, hear it from your perspective. There are sort of things that I don't know, and I feel like we're in touch, especially at the beginning, quite regularly. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think, really to hear it from your perspective and from your team's perspective, the guys who are, out and about, they're not people like you and I that, sit in offices.
Yeah.
So I think to sort of, have that feedback kind of from both sides of the team is really valuable. And yeah, I guess Theresa just mentioned one thing that I didn't focus on, but just want to kind of highlight is also that credit card receipt and employee expense claim piece. And we do have that mobile app that the guys can be out and about taking photos, and all of the approval workflows that we discussed earlier can also be set up for employee expense claims and or spend money transactions. So that can all be set up either the same or different. I know Teresa's got a system where the invoices sort of go through one set of workflows and the credit cards go through another set of workflows, so that can be set up as well and or sort of the same. So I think Ian, maybe we'll take another couple of questions and then I'll dive into a bit of a demo.
Yeah, perfect. Let's do that. Rachel asked if the app is included or is it an extra charge, and that one's just free for charge. We include that for all subscriptions, whether it's big, whether it's small. Yeah, it's just an app that you can install in any, I guess you could say, App Store, whether that's iOS or Android. And yes, Kenzo is asking if EzzyBills can export bills to Simpro. Definitely, we can do that. Our Simpro integration is quite extensive. I'd say it's probably one of the most extensive ones that we do have. So it's something that is definitely doable. And I'd recommend that you do reach out to us, Kenzo, either at support@ezzydoc.com or just shoot us an email afterwards. Francesco is asking a couple questions on Simpro. I just want to quickly run through Simpro because I guess we're focusing more on Xero and accounting integrations today. But is it possible to sort out handwritten invoices by contractors, extracting details in the right way? Yes, it's definitely possible. What is the best way working with Simpro, EzzyBills, and Xero? I say the best way probably is to have EzzyBills direct to both Simpro and Xero. So we can export to Simpro and then we can also export to Xero. That's just to ensure that the PDF sits on both Simpro and Xero. I know that the integration from Simpro to Xero doesn't include any of the PDF attachments. So if you did want to include those PDF attachments, then it's best to go from EzzyBills to Simpro and Xero. In saying that, we do have an automation that if you rather to go from Simpro into Xero, then we can also attach the invoices from EzzyBills to Xero if that's something that you're interested in. But yeah, again, Francesco, I'd recommend you reach out to us either at support@ezzydoc.com or just shooting us an email. Vicky is asking, and if you'd like to answer this, at least, how do you set up user IDs? I'm guessing they're talking about the HQ account.
Yeah, so yeah, unclear if you're talking about sort of the mobile app or sort of the HQ account. Again, not the focus, but I'll just mention it since I've kind of jumped into the app. Um, so we've basically in our HQ/multi-entity dashboards have this user tab and you can set up users. But as I mentioned previously, this is really only for members of your finance or admin team. It's not for approvers. Approvers don't need user IDs. They can just get documents via email and they approve them via email. In terms of the mobile app, if this is maybe what you were asking about, kind of Teresa did refer to it. We've got a section here in the expense approval tables for company cards, and you can set up those sort of aliases or usernames for each of your team members. So I guess I've covered both options.
Perfect. And Mitch is asking, they're having a little bit of trouble with photos. The cool thing about the mobile app is that you can take photos if you're in a patchy internet environment, and then you can upload them later by going into your photos album in your photo app itself and then just uploading it that way. If you wanted some more clarification on that, Mitch, just feel free to, again, reach out to support. And Angela, last question is, can delivery dockets match to purchase orders, then invoices? I'm assuming you're talking about Simpro again, Angela, and the answer is yes, definitely.
And not in Simpro. It's functionality that we're working on. So if that's something that's relevant, again, get in touch. Ian's kind of mentioned the email address. I also put it in the chat, support@ezzydoc.com. Yeah, happy to sort of help with that functionality. I think the main bit of functionality that I just wanted to cover in terms of in-app, just because I guess that was the sort of PO part and this kind of launching of new functionality that's really exciting, is this PO create module. And like I mentioned earlier, one of the benefits really is that you can give people access just to this feature, so they don't need to have access to EzzyBills, or they don't need to have access to Xero. They just need to have access to this. And that way you can have your, procurement manager or project manager just raise POs for what they need. So we're in apps, EzzyBills apps, create purchase order. And again, I guess the sort of caveat that I'll mention with this is new functionality. So we're very much looking for people to test it and very much looking for people to sort of give feedback to help us sort of build and improve on this feature, because I think it's amazing. I think there's a lot of potential, and just like many of our other features, like I've mentioned and Theresa's mentioned, and those of you who have been sort of working with us for a while know that things grow and improve based on client feedback. So we've got this PO portal. We can choose supplier. We can choose Bunnings, let's say, as an example. And we have brought in all of your items from your catalog. So this is sort of directly integrated with, in my case, my Xero file. We can then go in and choose whatever things we want. We can choose the quantities. Unit prices are pulled from the accounting software, but again, those can be updated if required. And then we can confirm the order. And these fields are optional. So you can put in a PO number, but if you don't put in a PO number, we will automatically just generate the next PO number in your system. So if your last PO is, 102, we'll just automatically create PO number 103. And then you can put in whatever information you need. Please deliver July, whatever. Whatever it is, right? So we've got our purchase order. And then when we click that place order button, that purchase order can go into whatever workflow we've got set up through EzzyBills. And so we jump back to our dashboard. And if we have, let's say, an approval workflow set up with EzzyBills, it'll go through an approval workflow. If it's just a workflow that pushes it straight to Xero, it'll just push it straight to Xero. So it's actually a way of creating that document, getting it approved if required, and then pushing it into the accounting software. So if we click on this doc ID, we can actually see, and I'll show you the PDF that was actually generated, because I think that's pretty cool. So that's what the PDF looks like. Again, depending on, which information you need. So in my case, I didn't, put a purchase order number in. It's created the next one. You've got the notes here. You've got the address here. So I think it's done a pretty good job of creating that purchase order. And then again, you can do it sort of with or without approval. And then once it's approved, then it will go through to Xero. And so we've spoken about our sort of approvals on our invoice workflows for a long time. But I think this is pretty cool because I think it sort of helps the process come full circle to actually be able to create those purchase orders and get them approved. Um, so if we click on this link, we can see the purchase order in Xero. And of course, this is timed out while I've been talking. But there you go. That's the purchase order that's been created in Xero. So you've got the, the line item details, the supplier, and all of the other kind of relevant information. Okay, let's take some more questions before we wrap up.
Perfect. Hiromi is asking, with the user setup, can we set it up so staff can only see certain client files?
Um, so I'd have to sort of understand a little bit better about what you're trying to do, but yes. So if, for example, you have a bookkeeping business, and you've got different bookkeepers, and you only want them to be able to access different client Xero files, then what I would use is these groups. So I've got sort of an example here, Donald Duck's clients, Mickey Mouse clients, Goofy's clients. So in this sort of case, each of these people are individual bookkeepers. And then if they only have the username and password for their group, then they would only see whatever client files are set up in that group.
Amazing. And Glenn is asking, can the PO be created from a scan of a quote or project claim schedule, or are POs created only manually?
It's a really good question. So that's functionality that we've always supported, is being able to create a PO from sort of any type of document. So in this case, so that's what I did in this case. So in this case, I basically took a Bunnings bill. I told EzzyBills that I wanted to create a purchase order, and it took that Bunnings bill and created a purchase order. So there's basically different workflows for different document types. And so to create a purchase order from a pre-existing document, you just tell it that you wanted to create a purchase order, and then you can basically put in any kind of document and we'll create a purchase order.
Amazing. And Gabriel is asking, is there a method for automatic integration with email, such as detecting certain suppliers and payees and having that bill be automatically added into EzzyBills?
It's a good question. So we've got functionality where you can do an import from your email, but we don't yet sort of have functionality where EzzyBills can sort of, search your email and like figure out what the different types of documents are. Um, so we can definitely link up. We've got email sync. But yeah, it's not that sophisticated yet.
Mhm. If they wanted to, they can always set up those email rules down the bottom, and then we can essentially just filter by the emails that come in, whether that's the domains that come in, like at bunnings.com. So we only extract from emails that come from at bunnings.com. We can always set it that way. Amazing. Okay, Kevin is asking, and this is, if we don't use approvals, is there any benefit in creating the PO in EzzyBills?
Look, I think it depends on what your setup is. I mean, my general view is less pieces of software is better. So if you've got, a different piece of software that's creating POs and you're already using EzzyBills for invoices, better to put two things in one place. Um, I think one benefit is definitely that you don't need to give your team access to other information that they don't necessarily need access to. And that, because we've generated the PO, we're going to be able to read everything from it perfectly because the document's been created in our system. So it will, go into Xero perfectly.
And Felicia is asking, how do we allow access for our site team to issue POs without an EzzyBills login?
It's a great question. You can contact us at support and we will get back to you with some more information. I can't show you how to do it this minute, but it's possible and we can have a chat about it offline.
Perfect. And last question, and I think this is pretty exciting. Rosie is asking, can you do another webinar to show us through the statement reconciliation process at the end of the AP process?
It's a great question, and my boss actually said to me yesterday that he wants me to do that. So stay tuned. Um, Stay tuned.
Yes,
Um,
we have
Happy.
some very exciting things coming to EzzyBills very, very soon,
Yeah,
especially with the statement reconciliation process.
yeah. It is actually really exciting. Okay, so I think there's a lot of questions. I think I'm going to mention one or two things, and I think we'll probably wrap up because we're sort of getting close to the hour. Um, I know everyone wants that last question. The recording, I'm just going to mention it because I saw it. So we will send everyone a link to the recording. So everyone who registered for this webinar, whether or not they attended, will get a link to the recording within a few days. We just need a little bit of time to, do any minor edits and tweaks, and then we'll send it out. And that's sort of from our perspective, like a public thing. So you're welcome to share that with, colleagues, friends, anyone else who might be interested in learning more. I'm happy for you to share that with whoever you like. Um, okay.
And also, if you did have any more questions, feel free to, as Elise has already put in the chat, send in to support@ezzydoc.com and we can answer all those questions as well.
Yeah, again, a couple of things I'm going to mention really at a high level, and I think each of these things could probably warrant their own webinar. And we will be running webinars a little bit more often now. Our goal is kind of, one a month. So I guess watch this space for the ones coming out in the next couple of months. Um, we've got sort of a build your own solution. We've got a developer portal that we've just released, the statement reconciliation, which someone has asked about. We've got our templated workflows, we've got our custom workflows, we've got, mobile app approvals, AI tasks, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of tools and resources sort of internally baked into the product. And there's also sort of tools and resources from our team. And so I think the last thing I guess that I'm going to kind of plug is, probably, well, a lot of you are probably already clients of EzzyBills. If you're not, there's obviously the information for a free trial and our website. But the other thing we do offer that I'm going to put a plug in for is sort of the onboarding and account management for current clients. So it's something that we're doing a lot more of recently, and Ian's one of the key people actually doing this work. And working with clients who are already using our system, who might be, sort of on a smaller plan, just, processing bills. And they decide they want to, bring in the approvals module or bring in the PO module or bring in the credit card modules. We can sit with you and spend a bit of time to, help you understand and help you get the right workflow set up and test and tweak and all that kind of stuff. So that is an option as well. We've got 1 minute, Ian, if you think there's anything burning that's relevant to answer.
I think we're pretty good for now. I just want to do a quick plug for our next webinar that we're having. I believe if correct me if we're wrong, if I'm wrong at least, but we're having a Simpro webinar, is that correct?
Yeah.
So please feel free to come to that one if you have any Simpro related questions. We have an amazing Simpro expert that will be running that. And so shoot all of your questions to him. He'll be able to help you out as much as he can. But also, yeah, as I mentioned before, and as Elise has mentioned before, if you have any questions, shoot them to support@ezzydoc.com and we'll do our best to get to them as soon as we can.
Thank you again, everyone, so much for coming. Hope you've learned a lot from this session, and we're looking forward to staying in touch. Have a great afternoon.